If you want your kids to be really intelligent, you can't teach them to conform to society. I've got some background noise because I'm outside. I forgot my mic. I'm on a ranch. There are some farm animals, some cats, some dogs, some birds cawing. So you might hear all that background noise. But if you want your kids to be really intelligent, actually super intelligent, genius level, you cannot teach them to conform to society. They're not going to fit into society. Think about this. You ever hear people saying, like, maybe one day aliens will come to this planet and they'll help us sort all these things out, right? Because they're thinking if an alien can make it to this planet, they're super advanced, they're super intelligent, they won't be sucked into all the things that our society does, and they'll be able to help us understand even better. But the main premise behind that is they're not a part of the culture, meaning they're not sucked into it where they're just conforming to all the things that our society conforms to. Think about our society. Think of how messed up it is, just in general, how there are so many people every day, thousands, tens of thousands of people every day starve to death, starve or die because of preventable causes, meaning like they don't have sanitary drinking water or sanitary water disposal, and they're literally in their own filth and die from diseases that are caused by that. And things like that, things that we definitely had the technology to change and fix, but we don't. Well, that's kind of messed up. The reason why we don't fix it is because it's not profitable. It's really interesting to consider these things from the perspective of someone from the outside who's not bought into this system and just going along with it would say, well, clearly you have to do this and fix that, and that doesn't make sense. But there's other things in our society that also don't make sense, like the way that we treat children, or the way that children are treated by and large in society, where adults expect certain things from children. They expect them to know certain social norms, where it's basically this idea of you're supposed to treat all adults in this way where you're accepting of whatever faults they may have, even at the detriment of a child's ability. For instance, a child shouldn't say certain things like asking a woman her age, as a silly example, but it is an example that we have in our culture. A child shouldn't ask a woman her age because then that woman could be offended by that, and the child should be looking out for offending adults. But it's a child versus an adult. Why is an adult getting offended by a child? And if we scold that child and tell them they shouldn't do that, or that's bad, or whatever, is that actually supporting the child? No. I know immediately the mind goes, well, then you're just letting that child run rampant and just say whatever they want and do whatever they want, and they're going to be a horrible member of society. Well, the truth is, if you do that, you don't have to just let the child run rampant. But the truth is, first off, society does need a shakeup. The things that we have put in place to say this is normal also keep society the way that it is. It doesn't change society at all, because children are basically taught to just listen to their elders almost blindly and not consider the children themselves. But the other thing is, you don't have to just let the child do whatever the hell they want. You can explain to them, here is how people will respond to these words, or when you say certain things like this is what you can expect from people and how they might react, and teach them and guide them through that so that they understand that, but not telling them they have to act this certain way or that certain way, but allowing them to understand this is how society currently functions. And with that understanding, they're not being forced emotionally into a behavior that is not necessary. So consider it this way. Let's say you're told not to shout, not to yell, and you should never yell, you should never shout, or you should never say things that could shock somebody or scare somebody or offend someone. Well, then when it comes time to someone's doing something they shouldn't be doing, something that would harm somebody else, that person who was told as a child they shouldn't shout or yell or offend anyone or question or challenge, when they become an adult, they may have a very hard time calling that behavior out. And it may feel very frightening or challenging to them as an adult, even though they know they should, but they just can't, right? And we don't want a society full of adults who are afraid to call out inappropriate behavior. And inappropriate, not just in the sense of society, I'm not talking about that. Inappropriate as in it's actually harming others. It doesn't make sense. It's going to end up causing our society to be hurt by either killing children or people, causing disease, things like that. If you're afraid to call that behavior out because it comes from an elder or an authority or someone who symbolizes someone that you were not allowed to challenge as a child, then essentially someone who's not affected by that will take advantage of everyone else's pre-program of, yes, I'm so sorry, I need to conform. And so if you actually want intelligent children, then they're not going to fit into society, and likely other people are going to view them as not fitting into society, whether that be rude or just not listening to them. It's mostly what parents are told is their child is being rude or doesn't have behavior that they want, essentially. And that's just adults mostly trying to manipulate children or manipulate the parents to get their children to conform to what that adult was told as a child and what they believe that they want now. I was just reflecting on this the other day of how I was talking to a child and I asked the question. It was a really irrelevant question and the child ignored me. And I was thinking about how a lot of adults would just go, you need to tell me the answer. Hey, you can't ignore me. Hey, listen to me. Do you hear me talking to you? A lot of adults would do that, right? Because they just want to be listened to. Nobody wants to be ignored, of course. But is it actually relevant? Does it actually make sense? Is it necessary that the child needs to answer to you at every moment? Do you need to answer to every person that asks you a question, even if it has no relevance at all? But you're probably told as a child that you need to answer. And so when a child does it to you as an adult, it feels like, oh shit, you need to listen to me. I want an answer from you. It's just a program running within you. It's just that cycle of behavior that happens when you're punished for doing something. You recognize a child doing the same thing that you did as a child. Your immediate response is to punish that behavior. Or in any case, it will cause some sort of anxiety within an adult because it reminds them of when they were punished for that behavior. And so they'll either punish it or they'll try to ignore it, not say anything about it. But you can guide the child to understand, hey, you're doing this, and I can understand why you're doing that. I did that as a kid. Here's something that would be a better way to do that, and helping them to understand, oh, okay, not punishing them, of course, but also who cares if your child fits in with today's societal norms? In today's societal norm, it is pretty common for people to put profit or greed or money over the value of life, of human lives, of animal lives, of this planet. It's very common for people to put morality, meaning making it seem like what you're saying is caring for another, when the reality is they don't actually care. How many people want to call out somebody else for some things that they may have said, whether it be on social media or just in a public space or things like that, but they don't want to question their buying habits, how very many major corporations use slave labor in order to create products for the end consumer. And people generally don't care. They may say something on social media, but they're not doing anything to pursue an actual change for that. That's the society that we have. No one's willing to challenge those that they see as authorities because of how they were raised as kids. It's okay if your kid doesn't fit in with today's current society, if they're being raised with the principles of doing what is best, and they actually understand that. Doing what is best means doing what's best for all life, considering all life, animals, plants, every living thing on this planet, the earth, all the resources that we have, and considering, okay, how is this action going to affect all of the life here on earth, or at least you can see within your community. And obviously, if you're going further and further, it starts with, is this best for me? Is this best for the people around me, my family? Is this best for my community? Is this best for society? Is this best for the planet? But in order to go out and expand further and further, you have to have more and more education. You have to have a greater understanding of how things interact with each other. You have to understand reality, and you have to be highly educated. And you can't be suppressed to just conform with how things already go, because then you can be misled into believing that's just the way things are. And so this doesn't make sense. Like, does it make sense that people are starving even in this country where we have plenty of food? In this country, we throw out so much food and do not get it to the starving or the poor, and especially not in other countries that are starving or poor, because it's not profitable, even though we have the resources to do so. But that's not done. And what that causes is more poverty, more death. Does that actually make sense? How can we say we care about others when clearly we're willing to let so many die and suffer because it doesn't benefit us? And so if we actually want to change that, we have to be willing to raise actually intelligent children without suppressing them, without causing them to conform, so that we can create a world that's actually best for all. So if someone's telling you that you need to get your child to behave a certain way, actually consider it from the child's perspective. Actually consider, are you first raising that child with the principles of what is best for all? And second, are you educating that child to actually understand what that means, what that entails, so that they can actually do something about it and be effective in it? If you want to know more about that, you want to be connected with other people who are doing this, a community of people who are raising their children in this way, reach out. Click the link in the description and send me a message and say, hey, I just want to find out more about how I can raise an actually intelligent child. Just send me the word intelligence and I'll know what you mean. I'll see you guys in the next video.